The high-pitched squeak of sneakers against polished wood echoed across the gym, the sound almost drowned out by the roar of the crowd. The championship scoreboard blazed like an unblinking eye, 74-73. The home team, the Brookdale Wolves, was trailing by 1 point. Only 15 seconds remained in the game. The pressure was thick enough to choke on, and every player knew this next possession could mean eternal glory or crushing defeat. For Ryan Keller, standing at the top of the key with the ball in his hands, this was the moment he'd dreamed of since he first picked up a basketball at 10 years old. Senior year, final game, the chance to win it all. The ball felt alive in his grip, pulsing with the rhythmic thud of the crowd's anticipation. His coach's voice echoed from the bench. "Take it, Ryan, you're our best shooter." But his eyes kept flicking to the figure crouched low in front of him, Ethan Miles. His rival, his shadow, his enemy for the past 4 years. Ethan wasn't just any player. He was captain of the rival team, the Stone Ridge Hawks, and the person Ryan had spent the better part of his high school career competing against in every possible way. On the court, in grades, even in the affection of their classmates, the rivalry wasn't friendly. It was sharp and personal, born from endless trash talk, rough games, and the time Ethan had stolen the MVP trophy right out from under Ryan's fingertips last season. Ryan dribbled once, twice, eyes on Ethan's feet. The crowd leaned forward, breaths held. Then it happened. Ethan lunged for the steal, and in the same instant, his ankle rolled violently. There was a sickening crack followed by a strangled cry of pain. Ethan collapsed, clutching his ankle. His face twisted in agony. For a heartbeat, the world froze. Ryan saw his lane to glory. Ethan was down the basket wide open. The championship was his for the taking. The ball felt suddenly heavy in his hands. His mind screamed, "Shoot! Score! Win!" But his chest said something else. In the bleachers, Ethan's little sister stood, her hands covering her mouth, tears already forming in her eyes. She was only 13, and Ryan remembered seeing her waiting after games for her brother, always proud, always smiling. Ryan hesitated. The ref's whistle never came. Play was still live. The crowd's chants swelled, urging him to finish it. Instead, Ryan tossed the ball toward a teammate to stop the clock, but instead of staying in the play, he dropped to his knees beside Ethan. "Don't move," Ryan said, his voice low but urgent. "You twisted it bad." "And," Ethan groaned, his pride still prickling even through the pain. Ryan shook his head. "Not happening." The crowd murmured in confusion. Coach Thompson shouted from the bench, but Ryan wasn't listening. He signaled frantically to the medics, waving them over. The clock finally stopped, the game momentarily forgotten. His team would lose possession. They might lose the championship, and everyone knew it. The medics rushed in, and Ryan stepped back as they carefully lifted Ethan onto a stretcher. The Hawks coach jogged over, thanking him in a voice that was half surprised, half bewildered. Ryan's own teammates looked stunned. Tyler, the Wolves' point guard, muttered under his breath, "Man, we just lost the game." They did. When the clock resumed, without Ethan, the Hawks managed to defend their slim lead. The buzzer blared, and the gym erupted. Half in wild cheers, half in groans of defeat. Ryan's teammates trudged toward the locker room, heads low. Some wouldn't even look at him. In the quiet that followed, Ryan found himself walking alone to the parking lot. The late, winter air bit at his cheeks. His phone buzzed with messages, some accusing him of choking, others calling him soft. He ignored them all. That night, Ryan lay awake in bed, staring at the ceiling. He thought about the way Ethan had gritted his teeth in pain, about the fragility in his rival's eyes when he couldn't get up. He thought about the moment he'd chosen not to take the shot. And for the first time, he wondered if winning had ever really been the point. By morning, the story had exploded. It started with a blurry phone video posted by a student who had been sitting near the court. The clip showed Ryan with a clear path to the basket, only to stop and kneel beside Ethan, calling for help. The caption read, "Sportsmanship over scoreboard, respect." From there, it spread like wildfire. Local news picked it up first, then state networks. Headlines called Ryan the player who chose humanity over victory. People were tagging him in tweets praising his character, using hashtags like Kimorathanagame and Thyrian Kellerform VP. When Ryan arrived at school, the parking lot was crowded. Not just with students, but with reporters, cameras, and strangers who had driven in from neighboring towns. The principal, Mr. Latham, met him at the entrance, clapping a hand on his shoulder. "You made this school proud, son. Even though we lost," Mr. Latham smiled. Some wins aren't on the scoreboard. In the cafeteria, people who had barely spoken to him before now called him over to sit with them. A freshman shyly handed him a thank you card, saying her brother had been injured in a game once, and nobody had helped. Parents stopped him in the hallway, saying he'd set an example for their kids. But the biggest shock came after lunch, when Ethan limped into school on crutches. The cafeteria went dead silent. Ryan stood, unsure if Ethan would glare at him, curse him, or just ignore him altogether. Instead, Ethan hobbled over, his face unreadable, and said, "Heard the medics say if you'd yanked me up or left me there, I might have done permanent damage. So thanks." Ryan raised an eyebrow. "Didn't do it for thanks." Ethan gave a small nod. "Still. Guess we're even for last year." Ryan smirked. "We'll call it even when you stop filing me every chance you get." The whole cafeteria laughed, the tension melting into something almost like friendship. Over the next week, the story continued to ripple outward. Ryan got a letter from the State Athletic Association commending his sportsmanship. Local businesses hung up posters with his picture and the words, "Character counts." Even the mayor asked him to speak at a youth sports event. The Wolves didn't win the championship, but somehow, Ryan felt like he'd walked away with something more valuable. In a way, so had Ethan. From then on, every time Ryan stepped onto the court, he still played to win. But he also played with the knowledge that the game was never bigger than the people in it. And as he looked at the crowd, no longer seeing just faces waiting for a score, but a community that understood what mattered, he realized that, for once, he didn't need the ball in his hands to feel like a champion.